Hey guys, welcome back. I am Nat from natsnumbers, also known as the Numerology chick over on Instagram. So today I'm going to cover the top 2 causes or the top 2 culprits in not resonating with the numbers in your numerology chart. So this video is for you. If when you learned about the numbers in your chart, you felt disappointed, you felt insecure, or you felt that one or more of those numbers weren't an accurate representation of who you are. This is also an awesome video for those of us who have ever done the numbers of a loved one, you know, a spouse, a partner, a child, a family member, even an enemy. And we're like, no, that is not them. You are going to be a fly on the wall in the deeper transformational work that happens behind the scenes in my numerology coaching. We're going to kind of dive into the deeper philosophical and psychological concepts of this work. So if you're finding these Friday morning uploads helpful and you want to share the love and have more of this content, please like, subscribe, and comment. It helps out a ton. Now let's dive in. So the first culprit or the first cause of not resonating with our numbers or not thinking that they're accurate for ourselves or someone else is outside conditioning. So outside conditioning is when something in its original pure state is altered. It changes because of reward or punishment. Okay? So numerology is based on the premise that we are each born with our own spiritual DNA, with our own numbers, our own unique gifts, talents, traits, and our own purpose, right? So when we're born in this purity and this beauty of who we are. But then, over the course of our life, we get conditioned. Because of outside influence, we get conditioned to perhaps diminish, repress, or devalue these numbers or these fundamental traits, right? And this happens because of how we're all so unique. So when we're born into a family unit, a friend group, maybe we go into an industry where there are numbers or traits that are preferred over others, okay? And so then what happens is instead of being who we are, instead of honoring who we are, we condition ourselves to no longer be who we are. Sometimes this conditioning happens via punishment. So I work with a lot of my clients on this, where maybe a parent, a teacher, a friend, a loved one tells you that this fundamental aspect of who you are is bad and it's wrong. Maybe if you have a 3 in your chart, someone told you to get your head out of the clouds, to quit being so dreamy and imaginative, to quit being a flake. Maybe if you have a 4 in your chart, people were like, gosh, can you quit being such a Debbie Downer? Can you quit being so practical? Can you quit being so grounded? Maybe you had a 2 in your chart and somebody told you in the timeline of your life that you being relationship oriented meant that you were codependent and clingy, and that was a bad thing. So sometimes this conditioning happens via punishment. Sometimes it happens via reward. You know, if you're born into a household of scientists, let's say, like that archetype of scientists, and you're this creative, you were rewarded for being logical and being cerebral and for getting A's in mathematics or in science, and you were never really rewarded for writing that beautiful poem or that creative piece, right? But either way, this culprit, what it does, this outside conditioning, means that we learn that there are certain qualities within ourselves that are bad, that are burdensome, or not as valuable. And so then you calculate your numbers and you're grappling with perhaps decades of conditioning. And your reaction is, this can't be me. This is not who I've become. Now, looking back, I definitely know that I was conditioned. When I first did my numbers, I was like, nope, I'm not an 8 life path. Nope, that's not me. And it's really interesting because 2 out of 4 of my core numbers, I was conditioned out of because these were numbers that were just not preferred in my family unit. One of my numbers, the number 2, makes me just a professional best friend. I am so relationship oriented. I want deep connection. And I really grew up in a household of people that were more independent. And they saw that trait as being inconvenient, right? So I stuffed it down. What's interesting is 2 of my numbers that I embraced in my chart, the 9 and the 7, happen to also be the numbers, the core numbers of my 2 parents. My mom's a 7 expression number and my dad is a 9 expression number. So again, I was conditioned out of my 8 and my 2, and I had just naturally accepted the 9 and the 7, okay? So how can you tell if this is a culprit, if conditioning is a culprit in your lack of resonance with your numbers? I want you to think back to when you were between 7 and like 12 or 13, okay? Psychological research shows that during this period of time in our lives, we weren't yet conditioned. And so this is when we truly were authentic. This is when we were truly being who we are. So think back to this time in your life. What were you like? What was your personality like? What did you enjoy doing? What did you enjoy talking about? What did you invest your time in? And what did you dream about becoming? Write that down, because chances are, even if it was just a sliver of your life that you can barely remember, the things that you did, that you loved, that you were, directly correlate to the numbers in your chart. It'll blow you away. Okay, so let's talk about the second culprit or cause of not resonating with our numbers. The second cause is being in the lower function, not yet in the higher function of your numbers. So a lot of people don't know this, but there's something called the law of polarity in numerology. And what it says is that every single number is on a spectrum, okay? Every single number in numerology is on a spectrum. So there's the positive or negative use of that number or superpower. There's the lower or higher function of that path. There's the constructive or destructive expression of that number. So a lot of people, when they learn about their numbers, they'll Google it, or they'll open up a book and they'll read the description. But usually you're only getting one side of the story, one side of the spectrum. So let's say you have a 1 in your chart. This is a really common one. I'll have clients who are like, I learned that I have a 1 in my chart and that I'm this independent, self-sufficient, tread my own path person. They're like, it's not me. Mm-mm. Or, a 2, it's like, oh, you're so perceptive and so psychic and so a master of relationship. Or a 3, you're this creative genius. So you read this description, this one-sided description, and you'll say, that's not my experience at all. When I read about my 8, I was like, no, no, I'm not an 8 life path, right? Here's the thing. Listen to this. Having a number in your core chart, being born with a number in your core chart, does not mean that you're going to be in the higher potential of it. It means that it will be a thematic woven throughout the tapestry of your life. When I first met my husband, I think it was on our 2nd or 3rd date, he had done his numbers. He had found out I was a numerologist, and he said, hey, I'm an 8 life path. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm an 8 life path too. And he's like, yeah, I actually don't think it's accurate for me, because the descriptions I read said that I am, all about power and money and authority and business and all of these things. And he's like, actually, to be honest, it's the opposite of that. So much pain in my life centered around money. He's like, my parents got a divorce because of money. And he said, in fact, I've had this fantasy lately of buying like 50 acres of land and never having to deal with money again, and growing my own food and just being totally, totally off the grid. And I had to laugh to myself. Because I could see the thematic of the 8 woven throughout the tapestry of his life. If you have an 8 in your chart, there's this thematic of feeling either materialistic or anti-materialistic, of feeling powerful or powerless. So how can you assess whether this could be a cause or culprit of not resonating with your numbers? Let's go through the numbers right now and talk about each of these numbers as a thematic. And you might get that like goosebumpy aha feeling all over your body. For so many of my clients, this is what happens to them. So if you have a 1 in your chart, there is a thematic around independence, or codependence. So you're not born necessarily feeling like this pioneer person, remember? There's a thematic in your life where you're put into relationships, into situations with people where you have to establish your independence, or you're going to fall into the lower function and feel that you shouldn't stand out, that you should be a follower. It's a thematic. For twos, there's this thematic of connection or disconnection, peace or conflict, right? So twos have this incredible gift and potential of being masters of relationship, but sometimes in the journey they feel constantly abandoned. They feel disconnected, okay? So all of us want relationship. We all want companionship to some degree, right? But if you have a 2 in your chart, it is a constant, intense yearning and need, okay? For 3s, there's a thematic of self-expression or repression of your voice, okay? So of, creativity and joy or drudgery. And so if you have a 3 in your chart, it's really that thematic is woven throughout of, should I speak up? Should I shine bright in my joy? Or is it unsafe to? Will I be criticized? Will I be told it's better to be seen than heard? Sometimes 3s are the most shy people, or people that struggle with their words, and yet it is one of their greatest gifts. Okay, maybe for the rest of us that don't have a 3 in our chart, speaking or not speaking isn't a big deal. Like, it's not something we think about. But for 3s, it always is. For 4s, there's this thematic of thriving or surviving. 4s constantly feel that they find themselves in situations where they have to make that choice. Am I going to just survive? Or am I going to step into thriving with that's practical, tangible, incredible strength and proficiency at focus that I have, right? So 4s will not always feel that they are these thriving pragmatists, but they will manifest situations where they have to develop that skill of thriving. 5, oh my gosh, I love talking about this one. 5, there's a theme of being adventurous and a freedom seeker, and being a sort of cautious, scared person. So 5s have this thematic throughout their lives of wanting to break the rules, wanting to be a rebel, a revolutionary, wanting to travel the world, and see all of the beautiful things that there is to see, just liberate themselves from the confines that bind. But they will have a thematic in their lives of wanting to hold back, wanting to be cautious, wanting to go the safe route. But the thing with 5s is it is a constant yearning. I don't have a 5 in my core chart, right? Like as a main number. And so, traveling or not traveling, I don't really care, breaking the rules or not, I don't really care. For 5s, it is a part of their everyday life, is this inner dialogue around, should I break the rules? Should I stir the pot? Should I live it up? Should I take the risk? You see? All right, for 6s, there's this thematic for the 6 of healing and caregiving, and feeling absolutely overwhelmed and resentful of others. So 6s are these incredible healers. They're incredibly, they have a magic in being able to establish harmony and balance in ecosystems and environments. They're these beautifiers, but they struggle throughout their lives. Initially, if they don't know about this number, they struggle with getting lost in the needs of others. And they struggle with illness and neglect to themselves, to the point that they're so depleted that they do not feel like they can transform with the power of their love. 7s have this thematic of incredible depth and intellectual brilliance. But then there's this other side of the coin where they struggle with massive meaninglessness and superficiality, right? Feeling like there's got to be more to life than just this. And so when you learn that you have a 7 in your chart, you might go, I don't feel like an intellectual genius. I don't feel deep. I actually feel like a cynic. Yeah. 7s, the lower function of the 7 is being a cynic. The higher function of the 7 is being this beautiful seeker of truth. It's interesting, huh? 8s, as we talked about before, the thematic is power and powerlessness. abundance and poverty, feeling like a capable CEO of your life and feeling completely incapable, feeling like the authority and then feeling like you're under the thumb of other authority figures. Nines have this thematic of being these wise old soul humanitarians, enveloping the world with their big, big heart. And yet the thematic for the 9 is also dipping into absolute disillusionment, existential disillusionment about humanity as a whole and about the world. So sometimes you might do the numbers of somebody that that has a 9 and you're like, they're not a humanitarian. But there's a constant theme in their lives of feeling the desire to want to change the world and make it a better place, and almost feeling plagued by disappointment that it isn't better. 11s have this incredible gift of spiritual leadership, but they are constantly questioning the insights and the ideas that are coming through constantly. 22s are the architects of worlds. They're the builders of dreams, and yet they're the ones that are constantly questioning their dreams, and they don't believe that they're dreams and that their visions are possible at first. 33s are here to be these joyful healers and teachers. They're, oh my gosh, these sparkly, joyful healers and teachers, and yet they struggle. They struggle with joy. They struggle with sadness and despair, with this incredible empathy that they have. They struggle with allowing themselves to pursue their joyful, creative pursuits that ultimately will heal others. They struggle with this. Do you see? So, I know we covered a lot of ground, but these 2 culprits are usually the deeper cause for why we do not resonate with a number or numbers in our chart, or why when we do the numbers of a loved one, we might not yet see them exhibiting these traits. So if you resonated with either one of these causes or culprits, please let me know below. I would love to hear if you got an aha moment. And if you have ideas for future videos, please always comment and let me know, because I read every comment and I would love to hear what you need to feel supported via your numbers. All right, guys, I'll talk with you next Friday morning. Bye.